Hello and welcome to Tarot tutorial part 2, and we're moving further on within the major arcana. In my first video I talked about the first 3 cards in Tarot: the Fool, the Magician and the High Priestess. Today we are talking about the Empress, the Emperor and the Hierophant. So I highly encourage you to watch my videos in sequence, because as I mentioned in the first video, that the major arcana is actually the story about yourself. So with that said, continuing, here we move further on. The Empress is symbolizing your mother. So we have different archetypes with the Empress. The Empress upright is of course the caring mother, the mother that is oozing with love, with compassion, giving all the necessity that you need to move within your life. Now, when the Empress is upwards, of course, that is the mother wound. So think for yourself, how was your mother? Unfortunately, we have all some type of mother wound. Of course, in the upright position, the Empress also can be the overprotective mother, right? The mother that is smothering their children with too much love, too much protection. On the other hand, reversed, of course, she is the quite opposite, the one that neglects the child of many reasons, maybe because she hasn't met love herself. And of course we have the comparison, that she thinks maybe your one of your sibling is her favorite, and yeah. So the Empress is the mother in the tarot. Moving further along, of course, when the Empress is the mother, the Emperor is of course the father. And we have, of course, positive and negative attributes within fathership also. That means, of course, the patriarchal system, the strict father that that is ruling his empire with a strict hand. How was your father? Was he a strict man, or was he a fair man? Was he someone that provided for his family? That is, of course, the upward position. In the reverse, you have, of course, the father that was emotional, distant. The father that maybe wasn't the provider. Maybe he was soaked in debt, and that made the family situation very much insecure financially. Maybe you had to move a lot. And of course, with moving, I was thinking about if you had a father with a military background, that is of course very usual and that maybe you moved around a lot, and because your father was stationed on different military bases, maybe all around the world, of course. So in chess, because the major arcana is also associated with a chess play, you have the king and the queen, that is actually symbolizing the empress and the emperor. And when the emperor falls, you know that the game is over. So your mother and your father, think about how your mother and father was they caring? Were they building a stable foundation, or were they financially unstable? Maybe you were brought up in a broken home, maybe your parents were divorced and you had two different homes to grow up in with two different rules, one set of rule at your mother's place and one set of rule within your father's place. That made a lot of confliction. The last one is, of course, the Hierophant, and that is the teacher. The Hierophant is the teacher. Now, usually, as you can see, that there is a cross here, and usually in the old tarot, the first tarot that was made, and the Hierophant was symbolized as the Pope. And a Hierophant actually is an Orthodox Greek priest. An Greek Orthodox priest. So with that said, in the old days, of course, the one that had knowledge was, of course, the priests and the monks. Because, why? Because they were the one who was going to teach the new word. And that is, of course, the word of God, of Jesus. Now, in the old days, there were only two parts that could read and write. And of course, on one part, it was the ones who had the money, the finances. And of course, on the other hand, was the religious, the monks and the priests. Why? Because, as I said, they were the ones who were going to teach the word of God, the new word of the new religion that led us from the old tradition of honoring different gods, honoring nature, and only honor one God and his Son, and that is, of course, Jesus Christ. The Hierophant today is, of course, not as much the Pope or religion, of course, but it's about tradition. And today it's more symbolized of education, school. Think about a professor that you had, or a teacher that you had one time, a significant teacher that you had one time throughout your life, good or bad. In the upright position, maybe this professor or teacher was teaching from a very traditional, strict manner, you know. The teacher were only supposed to be heard, and the pupils were just sitting and absorbing the information. The reversed here is, of course, having more untraditional learning, and that is, of course, something that we have adapted today. That today is more acceptable, of course, that that pupil are asking questions. And they evaluate the teacher and the professors too. Maybe it has been a little bit too reversed these days, when the teacher and the professors have to be careful about how they teach, because the pupil may feel offended by their teaching methods, you know, if they don't get good grades, or yeah, and that is how they can de-evaluate a good teacher, unfortunately, these days. So yeah, these were the three next in line: the mother, your mother, your father, and your teachers. Who were your teachers throughout life? Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.